In an era marked by frustration, could you use more contentment? In a world filled with anxieties, worries and fears, could you stand to have a bit more joy? Come with me back in history, a couple of thousand years. We're headed for the city of Rome, that thrilling metropolis of gladiators, chariots and empires. But we won't stop at the Colosseum or palace. We'll travel rather to a drab little room surrounded by high walls. We'll imagine we can peek into the room, and there we'll see a man seated on the floor. He's an older fellow, with shoulders stooped. Chains encircle his hands and feet. This is the Apostle Paul, a tireless church planter who has travelled all over the world. The preacher who has liberated people at every port. The servant of God, bound only by the will of God, is now in chains, stuck in a dingy house, attached to a Roman officer. Surely this is a fellow who has every reason to be in a slump. He is restricted by walls and is in chains. As he himself later writes, "My dear friends, I want you to know that what has happened to me has helped to spread the good news. The Roman guards and all the others know that I am here in jail because I serve Christ. Now most of the Lord's followers have become brave and are fearlessly telling the message." He is afflicted by those who want to stir up trouble. He writes, "The ones who are jealous of us are not sincere." He is conflicted by dangers he's facing. "For me to live is Christ and to die is gain." Look closely. He appears to be writing a letter. No doubt it's a complaint letter to God. No doubt it's a list of grievances. No doubt he's writing the New Testament version of Lamentations. After all, he's every reason to be bitter and complain. But Paul isn't writing such a letter, and he doesn't complain. Instead, he writes a letter that 2,000 years later is still known as a treatise on contentment. Sound interesting? Of course it does. Who couldn't use a guide to joy in this world? Let's follow Paul as he guides us down the trail to unearthly joys and otherworldly peace. Paul, who persecuted the early church before his life was radically altered by meeting the risen Jesus on the road to Damascus. The church at Philippi, located in the Roman province of Macedonia, was the first congregation Paul founded in Europe during his second missionary journey. Paul and Silas were beaten and imprisoned there, but God miraculously sent an earthquake to open the prison doors. After leading the jailer to Christ, they departed for Thessalonica. Paul wrote the letter about AD 60 from Rome, where he was imprisoned at the time. It was delivered by Epaphroditus, who had come to Paul at some personal risk with financial help from the church.
I have three purposes for writing the letter of Philippians. First, I want to acknowledge the believers' gift to me and express my joy in their continued partnership in the sharing of the gospel of Christ. Second, I want to explain the purpose and significance of my imprisonment, as it appears the Philippian believers are discouraged to hear of this latest development. And finally, I wish to address the issues of disunity that Epaphroditus had informed me are arising in the church among the believers. I want to encourage them to model Christ's example and to try to see things eye to eye, so peace and harmony will prevail in their fellowship. In your relationships with one another, have the same mindset as Christ Jesus, who, being in the very nature God, did not consider equality with God something to be used to his own advantage.